Yeah, it really helps that I don't have to deal with some stupid thief who keeps misusing all my posts. No offense, Amine. Oh, I should probably unban you too. We opened again on that new narration prologue, and our heroine's poorly animated laugh cycle. Granted, I'll take it over this narration. As it turned out, Ron was agonizing over what sort of shaved ice she wanted to eat, which I guess I can understand, especially considering some of the colorful stuff we have in our state. However, also like our state, a lot of the smaller businesses were closing down, including a Japanese confectionery that she really liked. Okay, so what? Was like the owner affected by the bundles and now they have to go save a food fairy? Or was it the effects of gentrification? You know, all of a sudden that gang of thieves feels like a really minor evil in the grand scheme of things. Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, I wasn't expecting Precure to tackle this sort of subject matter. Maybe that one thing that's still a bit relevant now, and actually has led to a lot of smaller food businesses closing down, but yeah, I guess dealing with the unstoppable force of Walmart, or in Japan's case, Aeon, is just kind of a timeless tale, unfortunately. Of course, being a Precure, Ron figured that they could overcome such a great evil, so they tried to give the shop a sustainable customer flow through her Kirsta post and an ad on the school's PA. Though in the cases of the latter, they of course needed the shop's permission first. I would argue that they should also get the school's permission, but then again, this is the same place that lets one of their students pass out the SATs. Anyway, they went after school, and coincidence of coincidences, Mrs. Matsuyama here was serving shaved ice as one of her shop's last dishes. Still, at least they were going out with a bang, as apparently green tea shaved ice is really good. I mean, I would say that sounds like a bit of a weird flavor, but then again, this is the kind of stuff we serve in our state. Interestingly though, while Ron only really described how her dish tasted, Amane actually talked about the history of her Minazuki rice cake, including why it's usually served around June time with some help from the narrator. This is what we wanted. Thank you. In fact, you know what? Let's just take one off from there. Seriously, for a show that's supposed to be all about food, they haven't really talked about it other than just how it tastes. People can experience that for themselves, but if you really want to get them interested, sharing facts and history like this can really help. It makes us appreciate the efforts vendors go through to serve it to their customers, and it's just generally fascinating. And when you can't have the characters organically go into detail about it, then use the narrator here instead of on the obvious exposition dumps. Also, yeah, I'm guessing this episode was supposed to come out in June, but you know what happened. Anyway, Ron kind of agreed, and believed that sharing the shop's 60-year history would save it, which, yeah, the look on Amine's face says it all. Meanwhile, at the Lair of the Bundles, we again got one of the funniest scenes in the episode, with these two numbnuts having a back and forth over the next target, before kind of just offhandedly doing that stupid salute. Yeah, I didn't think it was possible, but they made that dumb chant kind of entertaining. Kudos. Anyway, Amane later confronted Ron about her little campaign to save the shop. Not too surprisingly, while she didn't discourage Ron from posting about it since it is her account, Amane wasn't going to advertise it on the school's PA because again, I think you kind of need the school's permission, but more importantly, it was just kind of frivolous. And yeah, I do have to agree with her on this. Because while a part of me really hates to admit it, gentrification is just an inevitability. In fact, you know what, let's just switch cameras here to my phone. Okay, so this is the view out of my window to the city of Honolulu, Hawaii, which, yeah, isn't exactly an island paradise anymore. I mean, I still love this city, but I also can't deny that it's become overrun with all of these new buildings. In particular, this place was an old shopping center called Ward Warehouse that had a ton of shops that had been open for decades, and now it's being torn down to make way for more of these condos. While it is unfortunate for all of the old mom and pop shops, as every economy grows, space has to be made for the new stuff. Amane understood this, and was at least trying to be gentle with Ron by being a bit of a realist. However, trying to explain objective economics to someone who lets her feelings dictate most of her actions isn't exactly going to go over well. And admittedly, Ron's not wrong for feeling the way she does, but just doesn't realize that some things can't be changed. It's a classic battle between a realist and an idealist where, unfortunately, the outcome has already been decided. Ron even tried to get some backup from the rest of her team, but they also kind of sided with Amane. I mean, Kokone clearly did, but Yui went for a much more roundabout approach. Ultimately, Ron did everything she could, including making some flyers, but then pretty much got confirmation from Mrs. Matsuyama that she had already signed off on the shop's closure. The saddest part of all of this is that even though she said that a bunch of new shops would open to replace hers, most of them will likely be a bunch of soulless chains like Starbucks or something. And yet, also because of her age, it just wasn't worth fighting a losing battle, so may as well just forfeit to the next generation, which was very nicely symbolized here through a simple transition from her face to Ron's. This was just a great, really well done scene that, in so many words, basically said that sometimes we just have to accept change, and if anything, just be appreciative of the memories that are left behind, and... Wait, did I just say memories? Ah, damn it, the action scene is here! Yes, I know what I just said. I mean, yeah, this was an example of the stolen food memories concept actually working for this particular story, but come on, we had some good feels going here! So, the monster of the week was made from a shaved ice machine and some molds, I think. Thus, its attacks mostly involve shooting a ton of white stuff out of its lower abdomen area, which is nothing to be made fun of. Oh, and also it had nipple beams. However, its main attack was trapping the pre-cured molds and then no. Can we just go back to the storyline about the little old lady losing her shop to gentrification rather than this show's take on Saw? Thankfully, Rosemary and Takumi managed to save her in a good showing for the boys, but Jesus, what even is this episode? Still, since this was Ron's spotlight, she tried to take the monster on alone, but also got some help from Amane, who also confirmed that she cared about the shop. Not exactly the time and place to talk about that stuff, and she couldn't even really explain her choices in this episode, but whatever, I guess we needed some reason to do this obvious tribute to the OG. And after the fight, I guess they set up stuff for next week?
どうして私たちを助けてくれ?
助けたいから助ける。それだけだ。
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's all the writers are gonna let you do at this point. With that, the episode ended with a good speech from Amane about how the histories of people and places are formed. Granted, I think they might have taken a little bit of this from Kamen Rider Decade, but it still applies here, and just like the passing through rider, Ron's pictures would last even after the inevitable end. This episode also saw the debut of the second ending theme, which, yeah, just from the first frame, you could tell this was a much better sequence than the last one. I mean, not only was Amane actually allowed to be there rather than through Skype, but the animation from just a pure technical standpoint had much more fluid movement and better lighting. Said lighting came from the more open and inviting outdoor tea party setting that I'm sure the Mad Hatter would give his seal of approval to. And above all else, I much prefer this new song, Delicious Hearts. Granted, musical tastes are very subjective, and Delicious Happy Days wasn't bad, but yeah, I just prefer tunes like this that start off soft with building tempos before the big crescendo. Plus, I just find it hilarious that Pope Rowan from Joshin-chan was freaking singing this. Guess that Two-Faced Angel actually does have talent. Now this was the kind of episode I've been saying we should have been getting a lot more throughout this entire series. I mean, not only did it have some interesting food facts that make you appreciate how our food is made and how far we've come with it, but they even managed to get the narrator to do her job properly. Throwing a surprisingly realistic and down-to-earth story about gentrification, and you get a great episode of a... Wait, what was this again? Oh yeah, magical girl anime, right. Seriously though, while I actually hope episodes like this will become more the norm for this series, I almost forgot I was watching a Precure anime at times. If anything, this felt more like an animated chapter of one of their manga by the Kamihita Futago, who write more down-to-earth slice-of-life stories with often some very mature themes. This anime episode certainly met that criteria with some very interesting trivia that you'd also find in their work, as well as a very real story about how old businesses do often have to close down because of the invincible force that is big corporation. Granted, as always, it's a little hypocritical hearing that from a toy property of all things, but whatever, it's still a good theme. That did provide Ron with a good conflict that she was never going to win, and I really do have to applaud the show for not backing down in the end, as this was just that one enemy that the Precure could never defeat. Amane was also good here, acting as the realistic perspective to Ron's idealism. I kind of wish we could have gotten a little more of her perspective, like her trying to at least tell Ron that fighting gentrification is impossible, but that decade speech was still good. And interestingly, just kind of by default, the worst part of the episode was the fight, which was not bad at all. In fact, I kind of got a sick laugh out of the idea that the monster seemed to be designed by John Kramer. Seriously, Shaved Precious needs to become a meme. And when that's the quote-unquote worst part of the episode for me, then you can tell this is one of my favorite episodes of the series so far. If the narrator can be used this well in service of the show, hopefully actual characters will get the same treatment soon. Work on the new Six Ranger video is going well, so hopefully something should be out later this week. I really don't like to make promises I'm not sure if I can keep. Still, do look forward to it, as we really did want to analyze what makes for a good Sixth Ranger. Then for this first part, we are going to take a look at what I at least consider to be some of the best, before we get to part 2, where we'll take a look at the present. Still, look forward to it. And until then, though, farewell for now, my friends, and hold on.
Hello. Do you want to play a game?
I gotta stop pulling out my phone at the end of these videos, don't I?